I was holding a mug of coffee in one hand and a wrench in the other when the quiet of my cove got cut in half by a sound that didn't belong here. Not waves, not gulls, not a fishing motor, but that smooth, expensive hum of an engine built to be heard. I looked up and saw it sliding in like it owned the water. A long white yacht with chrome rails rolled into the cove like a neighbor who doesn't knock. It aimed straight for my grandfather's dock, the same boards I'd walked barefoot on since I was 7, the same planks carrying dents from crab pots and the burn marks from 4th of July nights when we probably shouldn't have been lighting things. For a second, the lake looked staged, like somebody had set a movie camera on the hill. 3 of them stepped down first, 2 men in suits and a woman in a white trench coat, sunglasses on even in the dim light. A 4th followed, clutching a leather folder. The woman didn't look at the sky or the timbers. She looked at me as if I were an inconvenience on her calendar. "Mr. Dalton," the lawyer called, voice precise and practiced. "This dock now falls under the Harbor Point Community Improvement Plan filed and recorded as of last week. Your access ends today." My family's dock reduced to a sentence. I kept my mouth shut and sipped coffee because I knew anger would be a show they would feed on. "I'm Mara Vance," the woman said, "president of the Cove Crest Homeowners Association. This is our legal counsel and Mr. Barrett, Realtor. We're here to make this transition easy." A realtor, the tell. They weren't here to help, they were here to move things, to convert people into line items. The lawyer spread flawless pages, non-conforming, unsafe liability, corrective action. Mara's voice softened and the word compensated fell like a threat with a smile. "You can cooperate or you can resist and face legal consequences." Progress, the word folks use when they want to bulldoze someone's life and feel righteous about it. I set my mug down and said, "Get off my dock." Mara's smile didn't budge. Barrett tried the friendly approach, palms out. "Nobody wants a fight, Mr. Dalton. Let's talk options." That ingratiating calm is a finesse of pressure, the kind that makes you wonder if you are the problem. For a moment I felt the old pull shrink, so nobody has to be uncomfortable. Then I pictured my grandfather out there, driving pilings in by hand, a fisherman who could fix anything, and the day we scattered my mother's ashes across that water, while the boat drifted slow with a hush you can only get on a lake. I thought about the kids on the dock learning to bait a hook, and the idea that you can replace property, but not the way a place holds your history. They left with their engine humming like nothing had happened. An hour later, an envelope arrived, HOA letterhead, embossed words. "Violation notice, non-conforming, remove within 10 days or corrective action will follow." 2 days after that, I found yellow survey flags planted across the gravel, men in neon vests, hammering stakes like they were marking out a parade route. "Morning, sir," one called, cheerful, "just marking the new easement boundary." Easement, the thin, polite word that rearranges your... I didn't yell. I documented close-ups, wide shots, timestamps, every stake and flag. Then I called my sister Callie, who works at the county records office and treats paperwork like a sport. She picked up on the first ring and went click, click, click. "Read," she said after a long pause. "Someone filed a new parcel map for your property this morning. Blue Harbor Holdings, LLC, registered last month, P.O. Box in the Capitol. A shell company. Filed doesn't mean valid, but it makes the edges look official." Callie kept digging. Mara Vance, tied to land acquisitions, Blue Harbor, linked to a development group with a draft plan called Harbor Point Marina Expansion. The pattern snapped into place, safety talk, as a cover, an easement to make the map fit the marina, a realtor to make selling neighbors sound like opportunity. Then the harassment escalated, letters about weathered boathouse paint fines for unapproved shoreline materials, meaning the same rope coils and old cleats we'd used forever had suddenly become violations. A realtor's card slid under my doormat with a note, "Let's talk before this gets ugly." Not a conversation, a complaint slipped into an envelope. Pressure makes leaving seem like relief. For a while, the part of me that thinks peace is worth any price whispered, maybe just take the money, start over. But then I saw a neighbor kid sprinting down the dock path, hair wild, laughing, and realized surrender isn't just mine, it changes a whole neighborhood. The cove would become a showroom. The people who belonged here would become scenery. I called Denise, a local attorney who grew up fishing this lake. Denise didn't grandstand. She listened, asked sharp, precise questions, then said, "Document everything. Don't trade your peace for silence. Make their moves the record." Denise knew where the old maps were, what filings get rubber stamped, and how to make public records stop looking like rumor. I wanted a line clean, legal, impossible to spin. I went to the hardware store, bought marine plywood and 2 posts, and spent an afternoon with a brush and bad coffee, painting a sign the way you carve a boundary into someone's head. Private property, no trespassing. All activity recorded. In smaller type, any claimed easement is disputed and under county review. Last line, the one I wanted to be plain: if you are an agent of Cove Crest HOA or Blue Harbor Holdings, you are here without consent. I mounted 2 visible cameras, not hidden, not creepy, just obvious. A message in technology: you don't get to bully someone when that bullying streams to the cloud. 3 days later, the yacht came back, bigger entourage. 2 security guys, the lawyer Barrett, the realtor, and Mara, all polished and certain. Mara pointed at the sign like it offended her aesthetic. "Take that down," she snapped, standing beside the sign while a mist turned the letters darker, the cameras blinking softly. I said, "If you step past this sign, you're trespassing knowingly." Knowingly, that word hit like a gear shifting. The security guys paused. Barrett's smile flinched. Mara's posture tightened. I held up my own folder maps, recorded property markers, Callie's notes, Denise's filings, papers stamped and dated. The change in Mara was small but real. She leaned in low voice, "You can't stop a development plan." I met her eye and said, "Watch me." What followed was less a cinematic courtroom victory and more a slow public unraveling. Denise filed for an injunction, the county flagged the easement for review, and neighbors who'd been quiet started calling with stories. Vague notices about shifting property lines, sudden dues increases, hints that the association was considering updates. People began to notice the pattern because once you see the seams, you can't unsee them. At the emergency HOA meeting, the room was packed and Mara came in wearing a blazer like armor. She tried her polished tone. Denise, calm and steady, laid out conflict of interest evidence, unauthorized filings, and a pattern of intimidation. Mara's past job in land acquisitions, the shell company filings, the realtor's involvement. People asked loud, relentless questions. You can't be reasonable and complicit at the same time. The room made that clear. Under that pressure, Mara resigned before a vote could force her out. She left stiff-backed, doing the best impersonation of dignity she could manage, but the shoulders were smaller than when she'd arrived on the yacht. The county put the easement filing on hold. Denise's injunction bought time. My dock stayed. The sign stayed. The yacht left, and the sound it made as it slipped away felt all at once like thunder and like someone closing a door that had been propped open. The aftermath wasn't neat. Some neighbors told me later the sign made the block look tense, as if my warning was the problem and not the people who showed up with folders. That was the weirdest sting, the urge to make myself the acceptable one again so the discomfort can pass. You get asked to soften while the people pressing boundaries call themselves visionaries. The lesson that settled wasn't legal jargon. It was something sharper and quieter. Power tends to respect what you defend. Shrinking to keep the peace rarely works. Long-term peace in that context is what gets negotiated away. Standing your ground doesn't always make you noble in neighbors' eyes. Sometimes it makes you loud or awkward. But it also makes the story harder to erase. So here's the question I want you to chew on when someone in a suit shows up with a tidy folder and calls it progress. Do you take the check and move, or do you put a sign in the ground and make your story harder to strip away? Tell me if you think I went too far. Drop an HOA or land grab story if you have one, and if you were carving your own sign, what's the one line you'd burn into it?